we'll start public comment with Ms. Kennedy, and then if anyone else would sign up for public comment, then please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman Stone. I am proud to be here today delivering a statement on behalf of Assemblymember Speaker Pro Tem Kevin Mullen. I want to thank the Judiciary Committee for holding this hearing today, especially as it relates to the Archbishop of San Francisco's proposed changes to the existing faculty handbook. When Assemblymember Ting and I engaged the support of other Bay Area legislators earlier this year to oppose the proposed morality clauses, I was deeply concerned that we were dealing with a situation that would deprive our fellow citizens of basic civil rights. The proposed morality clauses have the potential to set a dangerous precedent in the area of workers' rights, and it is critical that we make certain that no employee is deprived of the civil rights guaranteed to all Californians. I am and always will be an advocate of equality for all. My own Catholic education taught me the importance of tolerance and compassion, and it is my hope that the teachers and students in our Catholic high schools can be free of discrimination. As the new school year approaches, they should be focused on high-quality education rather than issues that are divisive and distracting. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. So instead of, there's a number of people who have signed up. If you've signed up or would like to speak, please, if you could just line up at the microphone, come on down. Save me having to call on folks. And I'm going to ask people to keep their comments about a minute, if you would. And we're happy to hear public comment at this time. Don't be shy. Right about noon, so it's almost not good.
Well, nearly good afternoon. Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Kathy Curran, and I'm the mother of 3 children who have gone through Catholic elementary schools, high schools, and college. Our youngest son is a freshman at Sacred Heart Cathedral. I myself went through 19 years of Catholic school. My brother is a priest, my aunt is a nun, my great uncle was an archbishop. I have taught in Catholic high schools, have worked in Catholic social service agencies nearly all of my adult life. I go to Mass on Sundays. I'm a little nervous. I am deeply rooted in my Catholic faith and very committed to Catholic schools. I am dismayed and incensed by what Archbishop Cordileone is attempting to do. It's harming our children, threatening our teachers, and destroying the fabric of our schools. My family has worked tirelessly for months to fight the Archbishop's efforts and to uphold what Catholic schools ought to be: rigorous academic institutions where intellectual curiosity is encouraged, where all children are embraced as they were created, and where teachers are called to promote the bedrock Catholic values of compassion, love, and justice. The Archbishop, by focusing on a narrow and contested piece of church doctrine, is undermining all of this. In the past several months, hundreds upon hundreds of parents, students, alumni, and friends have packed themselves into prayer vigils and services, educational forums, processions, and press conferences, opposing the Archbishop's proposals. Thousands of people have written letters, signed petitions, and spoken publicly. We fight because we know the cost of the Archbishop's agenda. I comforted the dad whose daughter cried throughout the night because she was ashamed her father, her gay father, was gravely evil. I spoke with the mother of the 15-year-old who feared that allowing her son to attend a vigil would be dangerous because the Archbishop had unleashed gay-bashing extremists who might wreak havoc in a public gathering. I talked with the teacher who lamented not being able to comfort and support his gay student, who wondered if she would ever experience love. I know the teenager who contemplated suicide because the climate of teasing and abuse was just too great. This is real, this is bad, and we need your help. And I thank you for your support in trying to ensure that our children are safe and supported in the schools and the teachers are protected and respected. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll go from side to side, and I know everybody is prepared a great speech, but if we could keep it to about a minute each, I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak. And so the longer that you take, the less time we'll have to ensure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Erin Kaiser, and I am a civics and government teacher at Sacred Heart Cathedral here in San Francisco. I've grown up in San Francisco Archdiocesan schools, having attended St. Anne's in the Sunset District, and then at Sacred Heart Cathedral myself as a teenager. In those schools, I always felt safe and accepted, as did all of my classmates. I was encouraged by my teachers to think critically and independently. It's for this reason that I wanted to become a teacher at SHC. I knew as a teacher I would be able to return that favor to a new generation of students. I wanted to be the teacher who challenges my students to think for themselves and to be responsive to the inherent dignity of all people. The Archbishop's vision for our schools represents a change from what has become a hallmark of Catholic education in San Francisco. I should not fear going to work each day thinking that my job is in jeopardy based on someone else's interpretation of my Catholic faith. My personal life does not enter my classroom, so my school, which is a place of employment for me, should not enter my personal life. The Archbishop's proposed language would his proposed language would represent a huge shift in how we teach our classes, as well as how we interact with our students in the hallways before and after school, during breaks and at lunches. Many of our teachers open up their classrooms as safe spaces for our students to seek out a place to be able to begin to imagine and articulate their beliefs, and these proposed changes would significantly alter the relationships we strive to achieve with our students and create. I know for a fact that there are at least a few teachers who have already feared the repercussions of such changes to our working conditions and have decided to leave our faculties. This not only hurts our faculty in terms of diversity of our backgrounds, but it will have a very significant impact on our most vulnerable students, those that are most in need. And as teachers, we have a special responsibility to advocate for those students' well-beings. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Patrick Dunn, Sacred Heart Cathedral math teacher for 13 years. I'm a former union rep as well. This really comes down to two priorities for me. Those priorities are to protect our teachers and, more importantly, to protect the students. If teachers go to work on a daily basis knowing that if they tell an LGBT student that they are wrong, that there's something wrong with them, if they cannot support that child is in danger, period. There's nothing really else to it. I mean, my rights as a worker are secondary to my protection of the children that I'm entrusted to. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Jerry Garber, and I'm a parent at SHC. My daughter's a rising senior, and we're one of those Jewish families that many of you have referred to. My aunt was worried because we decided to send our Jewish daughter to Catholic school. Won't Natalie experience anti-Semitism? In response, I said, not at SHC. I was assured by admissions there is room at the table for everyone. That is the beauty of SHC. I remember vividly walking into my daughter's religion class on back-to-school night in 9th grade. Although I was open to Catholic school, I was uneasy about the religion classes. The teacher opened by saying, yes, this is a religion class, but it is a class for students of all religions. As the admissions, think of it as a history class. As the admissions administrators promised, my daughter Natalie would not be subject to proselytizing. But now SHC's beauty hangs in the balance. Under the Archbishop's proposed contract, that religion teacher could be terminated if she said those words. In fact, under the Archbishop's proposal, my daughter's wonderful ethics teacher would not be able to allow my daughter to demonstrate a Jewish prayer or share challah on the Sabbath. The ethics teacher would possibly be fired and my daughter condemned. As a Jew, this discrimination is all too familiar. Many of our teachers grew up wanting to be teachers. They pursued a goal and accomplished it. Now their employer is telling them, we're happy to keep you on as long as you agree to being a minister rather than an educator. The Archbishop's contract proposals make it impossible for teachers to teach critical thinking or encourage a free exchange of ideas without repercussions. Teachers are the only adults some children have to talk to. The Archbishop is creating a community where those children would not be safe any longer. Who would they turn to without the safety of opening up to their teachers? When anyone, especially someone in power, tries to discriminate against an employee or infringe on human rights, we must stand up for each other. As a concerned parent, it's my duty to protect the teachers from the iron fist that the Archbishop is using to change our teachers' chosen professions to ministers. Like others before him, he is hiding behind the cloak of religion and manipulating the law, thinking no one will notice. Well, we do notice, and we are going to protect our teachers' rights with all our might. And I really thank you for this time.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Kern-Levitt. As a sophomore at Sacred Heart Cathedral, I'm blessed with school-wide diversity in race, income, interest, and sexual orientation. I love how all my classmates and teachers can feel accepted and at home every day. This needs to continue and, in fact, intensify. Students need to be able to love themselves for who they are. Teachers cannot be forced to tell students that they're a sinner simply for how they were born. Coming into high school last year, I was very impressed by the caliber of my teachers. Through all of this, they were honest, resolute, and understanding. I had teachers missing classes for meetings with union reps and administrators. They would return, acting like everything was fine. But their reality was clear. Many of them were thinking about themselves and their friends being fired from their jobs, and how they, being limited in what and how they could teach, and not being able to give the compassion and the respect they wanted to give to all of their students, especially those who were gay. We have to stop this. A student shouldn't feel marginalized by their school. A science teacher shouldn't be commanded to teach church doctrine. Parents shouldn't have to fear that their child would be told that he or she was conceived by sin. The only way to stop this from happening is for you to make a law that protects the rights of teachers and makes students feel safe. I ask you to please take our concerns seriously and act on behalf of all students and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Brian Cato. I'm the former Executive Director of Catholic Charities in San Francisco, and I'm the father of a gay son. 2 quick points. The Archbishop has the authority to promulgate Catholic teaching, but how a bishop promotes that teaching is all important. How does a Catholic organization, a school that does not limit its hiring to Catholics, does not limit its service to Catholics, how does it manage the tension between what our church teaches in the area of sexuality and how that organization is supposed to carry out its mission, support its staff, serve its students in the pluralistic society in which it necessarily lives? And the answer is very carefully. Pope Francis understands this. This Pope is not changing any doctrine, at least in the present time, but his sense of pastoral compassion, his sense of inclusiveness, he understands how tricky this issue is. The Archbishop clearly doesn't have a clue about this issue because he's come in with a sledgehammer, with a heavy-handed, sex-obsessed approach. And all it's done is cause divisiveness, it's caused pain, it's caused uncertainty, and in many areas it's called revulsion. The other point I would make is the Archbishop says he is not on a witch hunt, that he doesn't want to out gay and lesbian teachers. But he doesn't have to. There will be plenty of folks outside the Chancery office who will be willing to do that work. And if you look around the country, you'll see that's happened in dioceses all over the United States. And loyal, dedicated teachers who are faithful to the educational mission, teachers who would never consider undermining their schools or in any way harming their students, those teachers, through no fault of their own, will be at risk, and they will be fired, and the students they serve will be at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michaela Christie, and I'm a parent and alum at Warren Catholic High School. I'm going to fulfill my courses. You've heard a lot of them. But I just want to tell you how personal this has become for a lot of us. My son was conceived through IVF, came home one day with tears in his eyes because he was asked by his theology teacher to write about IVF, and how morally reprehensible it was. he knew he was conceived by it. I've had parents since then tell me who had their children through IVF feel like they can now never tell their children how they were conceived because they're afraid of how they would be treated. I met with the president at Marin Catholic after this, my brother's a teacher there, so this is also personal from that level. And he told me that nothing would change at the school with these changes in the teacher's contract and in the handbook. And how could that possibly be? How can a child who's questioning a sexual identity feel safe in the school, but this is all they've been talking about? What epitomized this for me was when the 5 nuns at Marin Catholic walked out and the students were participating in the National Day of Silence. And the nuns left the school by the protest. How does it make this? Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Elizabeth Purcell. I've been a teacher for over 40 years, and most of that time I have taught in Catholic schools. In May of this year, as a teacher, I was sitting in my classroom early in the morning, and one of my students came in, and he asked me if I had a minute. And I asked him if he needed to close the door, and he did. And then he sat down, and he said, "You know I'm gay, right?" I said I did. Then he asked me if it was true that I had been part of the demonstrations against the contract the Archbishop wanted teachers to sign. I said it was. He then said to me, "Does that mean that you don't believe that I am gravely evil?" I took a deep breath, I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Let me quote the Catholic Catechism. You are made in the image and likeness of God. That means you are perfect." And he started to cry. That's what this is about. Perhaps the Archbishop's language is not technically or legally hate speech, but it is hateful speech if it makes vulnerable teenagers question their goodness and their value. As a teacher, I am a mandated reporter. If I knew a parent was repeatedly using language like gravely evil or intrinsically disordered to one of my students, I would do everything in my power to have that child removed from that abusive situation. Both the Archbishop's language and the ideas behind it are dangerous to children's well-being. I am asking you to protect teachers so that we can continue to protect our students. And let me add that I believe you should do exactly what Mr. Berman said. I think you should go to the websites of the schools, and you will find that they are advertising for English teachers, math teachers, science teachers. They are not advertising for English ministers, math ministers, and science ministers. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gina Wellish, and I'm here as an alumni at Marin Catholic High School. One of the 4 schools directly affected by the handbook and the contract that Archbishop Cordileone has proposed. After graduating this year, I worry deeply for the job security of my teachers. Unfortunately, the new school year is fast approaching, and I am still deeply worried. I've gone to Catholic school my entire life, and I'm a lover of learning. I love to learn because I've had teachers who saw the potential in me. They taught me important lessons to succeed both in and out of the classroom. One of my favorite teachers once told me a quote by William Arthur Ward. "The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires." I'm here today to tell you that I've had great teachers who inspire me. I want great teachers for the future and great students of these schools. I was so fortunate to learn from the most amazing people I know, and I will do whatever I can to make sure my teachers stay great. And by great, I don't mean great ministers, I mean great teachers. A great teacher's job is plain and simple: teach, discuss, enlighten, and most of all, empower. Empower their students to change the world. Empower their students to be the best that they can be. That is what a teacher is hired to do. A teacher is not hired to condemn, criticize, or belittle a student's lifestyle. A teacher is hired to educate kids on how to think, not what to think. I want my teachers to be teachers. I don't want them to be ministers, both for personal and legal reasons. Legally, it would reduce the rights of teachers under federal and state law and the ability of their union to effectively advocate for its members. I don't want my teachers to lose their jobs because they supported a student who was born from a future fertilization. I don't want my teachers to lose their jobs for love
My name is Jim McGarry. I'm here for 3 reasons. The first, as a parent, I have a total of 7 children, stepchildren, and grandchildren in the Catholic schools of the Archdiocese of San Francisco or have graduated. Secondly, I'm here as a teacher. I formerly taught for 32 years in Catholic schools in this archdiocese, including St. Ignatius College Prep, Mercy San Francisco, and Sacred Heart Cathedral Prep. I'm here also as a member of Catholic Scholars for Workers' Justice, and I'd like to read a statement we have prepared. Catholic Scholars for Workers' Justice speaks in strong opposition to efforts by the Archdiocese of San Francisco to seek any form of ministerial exception for the teachers of the Archdiocese Catholic schools. We believe the invocation of this civil law stands in clear violation of the natural moral law that respects the teacher's right to free association and the protection of justly created civil laws. In Catholic teaching, any law, civil or ecclesiastical, that is not rooted in the divine law is no law at all. We call upon all Catholic employers, including the Archdiocese of San Francisco, to renounce the use of the ministerial exception that can be employed to violate the natural moral rights of their employees. We believe the Archbishop of San Francisco has no legal or moral right to extract from the high school teachers' union contract language that would essentially concede that the teachers are ministers within the meaning of the judicially developed law that seeks to balance individual legal rights against the free exercise clause. Under existing law, the courts will decide in each case whether the Archbishop's defense based on the ministerial exception is well taken or not. That is the way it should be because the legal test is highly individualized and dependent on the facts and circumstances of each case. The Archbishop is seeking to excuse himself from having to make that showing in each case by extracting language that could amount to a waiver by the union of its members' individual rights, some of which may not even be waived by law. Social justice demands that the Archbishop must prove his entitlement to use the defense in each case that may arise. He should not be entitled to excuse himself from having to do so. He would effectively dispense with the role of the courts. This constitutes a grave violation of the human rights of high school teachers in the Archdiocese. Small paragraph left. Catholic Scholars for Social Justice stands ready to be of assistance to the Archdiocese of San Francisco, to the high school teachers of the Archdiocese as they seek a just settlement to the present crisis. There is much in the rich tradition of Catholic social teaching and best practices in the secular sphere that can promote justice for all and the reconciliation of opposing viewpoints. We especially urge the parties involved to review the detailed examination of workers' rights and employer responsibility that is found in the compendium of the social doctrine of the Catholic Church. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you wanted to present that statement to the committee, we'll make it part of the record. And that's true for anybody's statements. If you'd like to submit it to us, we will make it part of the record. Please.
Hi there. Thank you for being with us. My name is Mona Dunn, and I have taught science, UC accredited for 10 years at Sacred Heart Cathedral, and I'm in agreement with everything that's been said so far, but I wanted to address what was said earlier. Our approved text and curriculum teach about the Earth's 4.5 billion year age and evolution as the only data-supported scientific theories. I have never once been told to teach anything else. I fear that we will be forced to change the curriculum in order to make a case for ministerial exception. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tim Paulson. I'm the Executive Director of the San Francisco Labor Council. We represent over 100 unions here in San Francisco and also many teachers' unions in both the public and the private sector. And people have already been very eloquent talking about the possibility of intolerance and discrimination being opened up by the Archdiocese with these proposals. What I'm here to say is that the employer is overreaching in this case right here. Workers need more rights, not less rights when things come down. I'm here because I've been on the streets and listening to the teachers and listening to the parents and listening to the students and their main concerns. And this ministerial exception is over the top in terms of relationships to workers. It will exempt people, many more people, from any of the other laws and protections that they might have, whether or not it's in their collective bargaining agreement or not. And I'm just saying, the rank and file, of which I'm hearing 80-some% have already signed up to say that they're against these new proposed rules, both in the collective bargaining agreement as well as the handbook, and the labor movement in San Francisco really does not tolerate that. And we really thank you for having this hearing today. I think it's very informative, and it's a great use of the legislative time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Butler. Buckley. I'm a graduate of Sacred Heart Cathedral in the class of 2013. I'll start by saying the educators of Sacred Heart Cathedral are my lifelong role models and now good friends, I'm proud to say. And during such a critical time in my life, they helped me to develop my personal identity, which included my Catholic identity, and strengthen my faith more than I could say. They know what their job is. The proposed ministerial exception is, in addition to being harmful, is just unnecessary. They know what their task is as Catholic school teachers. And the amount of support the teachers have received is a testament to just how much we love them as a community and will support them however they need it. I credit my strong Catholic faith to the exemplary college prep education I received in high school. And that proves that our schools can both be Catholic, have a Catholic identity, and be college prep. So in particular, discussing different viewpoints aided me in solidifying my own faith. Had the exchange of free ideas been prohibited, I certainly would not be as grounded as a Catholic as I am today. The website of the San Francisco Archdiocese says, under the state section, Archbishop's Welcome, that our schools, quote, offer learning opportunities rooted in academic excellence and the Catholic tradition for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. It is imperative that we keep our schools safe and secure for students and faculty of all faiths or no faith at all. Our community embodies the loving spirit of Christ in all that we do, while simultaneously providing a college prep education. Sacred Heart Cathedral is truly the most inclusive and loving community I have ever known. So we ask the Archbishop, please allow our school's culture of love and sound learning to continue to flourish as it has for so many years. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Hugh McNeil and I'm gay. Next year I'm going to be a senior at Sacred Heart Cathedral High School. This past year has been a roller coaster, with Archbishop Cordileone's attempt to take away teachers' rights by labeling them as ministers and also condemning me and my community as gravely evil. I wrote this speech both to tell you the importance of teachers who are LGBT allies, but also as a goodbye letter to a teacher who has been one of the biggest role models in my life. Dear Miss Bash, I'm not exactly sure how to tell you this or where to start, but I suppose I have to start somewhere. I was sitting on a Caltrain to Palo Alto. I had recently received my schedule for next year and was ecstatic to find that you were going to be my government teacher. While I hadn't gotten the chance to have you as a teacher yet, I felt as if you had been mentoring me for months. You had proofread my teach acceptance speeches, helped me draw posters for rallies, and talked to me about college. You were a person I could trust, and I could say with confidence that you were on my side. I knew you were under a lot of pressure from the Archdiocese because of your public support for LGBT students. I understood the risks you were taking, but I never really realized how much your leaving would affect me until I found out last week that you weren't coming back next year. And when I was trying to put together something to say, I kept thinking, this doesn't feel like I'm saying goodbye to a teacher. It feels like I'm saying goodbye to a friend, an ally, someone who would stand up for me. As you can see, I'm still having a little bit of trouble letting this go because that relationship means so much to me. Whatever I said or attempted to say these last few days seemed to be incomplete. So I think I'm finally ready to say goodbye. I hope that you spread all the joy, empowerment, and hope at your new school that you have shared with mine. You have given our school and our community so much. You have given me so much. Without you, I wouldn't be standing right here now giving this speech. I hope this becomes a symbol of why students need teachers who will support them, no matter their sexuality, their family structure, or their conception. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mairead Allback. As the daughter of a teacher at one of the 4 archdiocesan high schools, a sister of a gay student who graduated from one of the 4 archdiocesan high schools, and a recent graduate of Sacred Heart Cathedral myself, I have seen firsthand the detrimental effects that Archbishop Cordileone's proposed changes to our teacher contract and student handbook have had on our community. I have seen students argue and cry after seeing the destructive language in the new handbook that labels who they are as gravely evil. I have seen teachers terrified to lose their jobs. I have seen parents weep because they are afraid their kids will no longer be safe to be who they are at school. Now, I do not know every detail of church doctrine or canon law, and I do not know much about California legislation, but I know my community. and I know that if Archbishop Cordileone's proposed changes are approved, teachers are going to leave or be wrongfully let go. Parents will pull their kids out of these amazing schools, and the students will be the ones who suffer. I urge you to not let that happen.
Esteemed assembly members and panelists, my name is F.X. Crowley. I come as a lifelong Catholic, union leader and president of the Father Peter York Catholic Labor Committee, a fellowship of Bay Area organized labor members who share our Roman Catholic faith. I am a product of the San Francisco Catholic schools and have great respect for my former teachers as well as the experienced and professional faculty who have taught my Catholic school-educated children. I am most proud of the fact that my father, John F. Crowley, former Secretary-Treasurer of the San Francisco Labor Council, along with Nick Bridger and James Gallagher, AFT, secured protections for our Catholic high school faculty members by negotiating the first of its kind collective bargaining agreement for the Catholic school system here in the United States. After all these years, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone seeks to overturn the protections afforded by the CBA by inserting a ministerial exception that would place this Catholic school above the law. Our Catholic school teachers would lose access to all state and federal anti-discrimination laws if the Archbishop's ministerial language prevails. While I have great respect for my faith, I have grave doubts concerning the sincerity and morality of our church's local leadership, who seeks to undermine the working people's job security and civil rights. My fellow Peter York Catholic Labor Committee members and I urge Archbishop Cordileone to withdraw the proposed ministerial language and pursue contract terms with the San Francisco Catholic high school educators and respect teachers, labor, civil and human rights inside and outside the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sal Curcio, and I'm a teacher at Sacred Heart Cathedral. We'd like to thank the Assembly members for calling this hearing. Like the majority of my colleagues, I love my job. Because our struggles with the Archbishop have been so public, I am often asked by friends, how are things going at work? Or how is your community coping with the crisis? How do I answer? How do I answer knowing that our employer, the Archbishop, thinks it's okay to strip his employees of their most fundamental rights? How do I answer knowing the Archbishop's actions have made many students, parents, and my coworkers feel like second-class citizens in their own communities? How do I answer knowing that I am watching amazing schools that we love turn into places where our most vulnerable kids are told they or their parents are gravely evil? Some of my friends ask how we've had the endurance to continue this uphill fight against the Archbishop. It's because we love our jobs. And I think you could see that we love our students and they're worth the struggle. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say good morning, but it's good afternoon. My name is Marcy Dunn-Ballard. My niece and nephew teach at an archdiocesan high school. I'm the last and the oldest speaker. I attended Notre Dame Belmont in the 1940s. Sister Teresa Marie, my first grade teacher at Notre Dame, repeatedly called my mother to ask her, please tell Mary Claire to stop kissing my hand. So you see that I loved my first grade teacher. However, I was suspended in the first grade for a whole afternoon for unrelenting protests when the chart allotted to our classroom illustrated that my mother would not be in the highest place in heaven among the celibates, whoever they were. Helpless at that moment, Sister Teresa Marie summoned the Mother Superior. When her persuasive skills could not quell my 6-year-old outrage, my mother was called. My father came and got me. Sister Teresa Marie had no voice. She was powerless in that instance, and I was hurt because of it. I'm ashamed now, looking back, realizing the adults in our community were not concerned about modernity, and what was going on in the schools. Some people still explain all of this away by saying, well, that's the way it is. Thank God times have changed. But have times changed? Here we are today in 2015 debating whether teachers living in California, working at Sacred Heart, Sarah, Marin Catholic, and Reardon have a reasonable expectation that their employer is not above the law. The Archdiocesan leadership today isn't hanging offensive charts in the classroom, but it is proposing putting tape over the mouths of our teachers. We cannot allow this or them to ignore science and truth. We may have Galileos in our midst, among our teachers and among our students. We will never know unless we give teachers a voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
My speaker
Anyone
just
else?
can't stand.
Please.
Get your mic. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I can't stand. For long. My name is Peggy O'Grady. Thank you to the members of the committee for hearing us all here today, and I appreciate the legal issues here. I'm a little sensitive to them, but I am speaking here as a mother, like so many here. I've been involved in this issue since I heard of the Archbishop's proposals initially. I'm the mother of 3 children, all of whom have gone through Catholic schools. I have several teachers in Catholic schools in the families, like so many who have spoken here, and I'm the product of Catholic education. So I say this with the deepest of respect and gratitude to what Catholic schools are about in the formation of young people of conscience and character. I am also the mother of a gay son. He came out while in an Archdiocesan Catholic school several years ago, and I was so grateful for the community of support and diversity that embraced him. I was also, however, dismayed when in a religion class, he heard what I believe was a distortion of Catholic teaching, that homosexuality was compared to bestiality and incest. But there were good people in his school of conscience and acceptance, teachers, students, counselors, some here who embraced and supported him, and who, like our family, could express that support. I too believe and said he was made in the image and likeness of God. We in Catholic schools cannot be in the business of harming our students. Sadly, the Catholic Church doesn't have the best record in this regard, and we as parents have truly learned to find our voices and speak up. If the diverse and supportive community of our schools is threatened, fired, removed, or frightened away, they would not be safe places for our children. I want to also make mention of a recent op-ed piece by 2 faculty members and mental health professionals from UCSF, Benioff Children's Hospital, in which they speak to Archbishop Cordileone. It is entitled, "Do No Harm." In these, the professionals speak to the biologic underpinnings of sexual orientation as well as gender identity development, and they call on all institutions to support rather than condemn our LGBTQ youth. We need to be profoundly sensitive to the significant emotional and psychological damage that words, exclusion, and condemnation cause. I do not believe that has any place in any school, in particular our Catholic schools. And with regard to the goals of Catholic schools, as the labor attorney mentioned, growing intellectually and spiritually, absolutely. I think we all who send our children there appreciate that. They can't do that if they're being harmed, if they're being labeled as evil, if they are excluded and condemned. And when we all have looked on the websites actually and embraced those messages of mission. What is being attempted here, I would say, is a significant change, and that's why parents and students and teachers have risen up with such a strong voice. I ask for and am grateful for your continued commitment to use whatever legal avenues are available to ensure that our wonderful Catholic schools continue to be safe, inclusive, supportive environments for our children, all our children. We deserve that. We deserve to fight for that for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
I do want to say just one.
Can I submit this? Can I give you the articles from the...
Yeah, provide anything to us and we'll make it a part of the record.
My name is Greg Hassan, and I've worked alongside so many of these families, and I just can't sit here and not say thank you to them. When these changes started happening, I found it so incredibly disturbing. I've worked with gay youth for the last 25 years, 29 years maybe. For so many gay youth, because of growing up in traditional and conservative families, the schools are the sanctuary. It's the only place they know. that they can be fully themselves by finding community. It breaks my heart to hear you and what you had said, that he's losing a teacher that provided the sanctuary. There are rooms of the LGBT teachers that become the sanctuary, the only place these kids can be seen. And the Archbishop is trying to shatter that. I have never, ever, in my 30 years of growing up, from 22 on in San Francisco, I have never been more moved by a community of people. I have never felt a more thoughtful, incredibly loving group of people than the people that I've worked with over the last year or whatever. It's and a few of us a little bit blonder. I want to say thank you. I think the job that we are doing is sacred. My 84-year-old Catholic mother said, for once you're using that big mouth of yours to do God's work. Amen. My mother would be so happy to see what happened here today. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We're going back to the committee for closing remarks.
I just first of all, thank you to our chair, the committee staff, and to all the folks who came to testify, and for all of you for coming today. I think the one thing that we can draw is really how precious these schools are. And I know that while we spent a lot of our time talking about fairly theoretical and legal concepts, I really appreciate all of you for coming today to actually talk about how this matters in your life. Because ultimately that's what we're trying to discern. And we don't believe that when you enter these schools, you're supposed to leave part of yourself at the door. We don't believe that if you work at these schools, that you also have to somehow hide part of your life at the door as well. And I think we want to make sure that all the rights that we have fought for, and they have been victories over years and years and years of efforts, whether they're civil rights laws, whether they're employment laws, that those continue to be there to protect employees, teachers, students, community members, and I think that's what we're trying to find. We're trying to strike a balance and be very respectful of an institution that wants to, again, teach their religious philosophy, which is their right. Yet we also want to make sure that those folks who've chosen to be employees, chosen to study there, chosen to be part of that community, don't have to lose theirs. So I really want to just thank you. As you could all see, it's not a simple solution. There is no easy silver bullet. I think if there was, then we would have already been doing something. But I know that I have full faith in our community here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. I know that at times we are the first to do things, and we do things that people sort of scratch their head at, and only to find later that we were right all along. So I hope that we can continue to be part of the dialogue and discussion. I know that always good things come out of dialogue, and continue to debate and discuss issues. And I hope that we can continue to do that and hopefully find a path forward for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Here we sit in a city that's known internationally for its tolerance, and in a political international landscape of struggling with tolerance and what that means. And sometimes we take some steps ahead and we take some steps backward. I started my career on the school board, and I remember, so this was a public school, and had a small group of parents wanting us to fire teachers because they put a pink triangle in their classroom. And that pink triangle was a symbol that it was a safe place for anybody to be. And a couple of parents were very, very offended by that and came to the school board. We would not brook that intolerance, and in fact supported the teachers to do just that. And what worries me is that And the ministerial exception that I know some of the testimony was concerned about, that's the law, there are good reasons for that. But I think what the concern is that if we start to expand those exceptions to our laws that protect individuals constitutionally from discrimination, that there is a state interest there. There is an alarm that needs to go off. There is a standard that I think California can and should be looking at. We're gathering information at this point, not presuming one way or another on an issue, but I think the legislature's been very clear over the last number of years that we will not stand for hatred, we will not stand for discrimination, we will not stand for intolerance. And fighting our way through a very thorny issue here is what we're committed to do and figuring it out. So I thank you for being a part of it. I want to thank our panel. We had a great panel, tremendous amount of knowledge, capability, history with the issue that has informed us. I want to thank committee staff for excellent background paper, and thank you for all turning out today. So this hearing is now adjourned.